is my new Forza 300 that I picked up yesterday. I thought I'd do just a mini review because one of the things I found while I was looking at changing my bike was finding a review that was actually in English was very, very difficult. So I thought I'd just give my initial thoughts. First thing I will say is I feel that it's a good upgrade. There's been some really, really vast improvements. I did have the 125 for just over 2 years, covered over 13,500 miles, and I did used to ride my old Forza all year round. And I must say the 125 was a superb bike. The only reason I really upgraded to the 300 was because I did find, particularly on A roads, that the 125 was slightly underpowered when sort of 60 mile an hour and you wanted to overtake a lorry or something. It was a bit difficult, as most of my journey to work does seem to be on A roads. I thought the 300 might be just a little bit more practical. So engine, absolutely fantastic. Massive improvement on the 125. Acceleration 0 to 60 somewhere in the region of 6.5 seconds, counting them ahead. I'm literally really impressed with that. Once it gets up to about 65, it is a little bit more sluggish going up towards the top end, but to be fair, 30 seconds and you are knocking on 80 mile an hour. So definitely ideal for what I need the bike for. I very much contemplated going for the NC 750 with the DCT box. I did demo ride that bike, and I have to say I absolutely loved it. The main reason I didn't go for that was because the storage mainly. I did deliberate for quite a long time over the 750 NC, and even up to the moment I picked this bike up, it was still in the back of my mind, I was thinking, have I done the right thing? But considering the saving in £2,000, which is really going to pay for my fuel for the next 2 years while I own this bike, the extra storage, to be fair, my initial thoughts on this is that it's more than enough power for what I need for my work journey. I don't particularly need a bike that does in excess of 100 mile an hour, because if I've got it, I'm going to use it, and I think we all know the consequences of those kind of actions. So there we go, this is the Forza in blue. I've not seen many blue ones. I had a right nightmare trying to find a demo bike to try, and I'm sure any of you that are currently looking in the early days of the release of this bike are probably having similar issues. And there was only really one review on YouTube at the time, which was really good, but it didn't sort of answer a few of the questions that I was sort of looking for. So extras, I decided to have heated grips fitted. Not really sure why, because to be honest, I always rave on about how good my heated gloves are. Heat gloves are absolutely superb, and I shall still be using them. But the main reason I went for the heated grips was because I thought, do you know what, I got them at a decent price, and on days when it's not particularly that cold during the day, and probably just the morning when it's a little bit nippy, I thought if I got heated grips I could pop them on rather than wearing my heated gloves. So long term, if I decide to change the bike, or when I change the bike, I can keep the heated grips, or just an additionality for somebody when they want to buy the bike. So I thought it was worthwhile. Tracker, as you're probably all aware, at the early release day of the Forza, the tracker is a free optional extra. You do have to pay for the annual subscription, which I think was £109. Don't expect that to knock any money off your insurance, because it certainly didn't for mine. But my thoughts were, if I get the bike back fairly quickly if it's stolen, maybe I might be able to salvage what's left, if anything's left, and that could reduce my excess quite excessively, or probably not end up paying an excess. So I think there is merits in having it. After the first year, you're not tied to the subscription. I actually believe there's more space in there than what there was on the old 125. I'm not sure of exact literage on storage, but it does look and seem a little bit bigger. I think one of the main differences is the fact that at the front end, where the battery used to be, down here, the battery is no longer there. I've yet to find that. One thing I also got in this I wasn't expected, they actually put me an adapter in for me Optimate. I was quite surprised to see that, but it's a nice little touch. One additional thing I did do to the Forza, as soon as I got it home basically from the dealer yesterday, I did give the whole bike a good covering in corrosion blocker. Looking at reviews through recommendations, I found AC50 to be highly recommended, but there were a few drawbacks with that, whereas it tended to wash off quite easily. The other one was XCP, so I bought a couple of tins of each, and everywhere on the bike where it was non-visual, up underneath the fairing, underneath the body panels, etc., I did give it a really good coating in XCP. Anywhere that was more visual, I used the ACF50. It seems to be quite sticky. It's gone on quite well, covered quite well. The only thing I am finding that at the moment it seems to be bleeding out of every seam on the bike, but I can live with that. I just wipe it off now and again, and I'm sure it will keep bleeding out for the next 2 or 3 days, but hopefully if it makes a little bit of difference, I'll be quite happy, because I did find there was quite a lot of corrosion on the old Forza after the first winter, so a little bit of protection I thought might just help. Didn't take very long, didn't cost a lot of money, so worthwhile. I think fuel economy is probably another question that people are probably going to be asking themselves. Today I'm getting roughly about 17 miles to the litre. It's fairly early days, it's not running, not that I will run it in, I should drive it like I'll expect to drive it all the way through its life. But considering I was getting somewhere in the region of 22, 23 on average out the 125, that is quite a considerable drop in consumption. But hey ho, worse things in life I'm sure. Dashboard, absolutely brilliant, very clear even in sunny weather. Quite impressed with the amount of detail on the display, with the air temperature, mileage, clock. And one of the beauties I found with this, with the heated grips, is when you actually put the heated grips on, you get a little figure come up in the top right hand corner, top left hand corner. I don't know if you can see that. Which actually shows you the heat settings, and the Honda grips seem to have 5 heat settings. I know you do pay a premium for the Honda grips, but I didn't really want the Oxford ones because I didn't want that little box control unit sticking up somewhere. I don't particularly like these bits that stick out. The only negative for the Honda grips is it's got this wire here that so far I'm actually finding quite annoying, but I'm sure I'll get used to it, but I might try and tidy that up a little bit more. Okay, so my thoughts, anybody looking or considering upgrading to the 300 from the 125, or even their first scooter going for the 125, absolutely highly recommend it. Really is really worth going for. Service intervals at 8,000 miles, which is quite considerable. I would imagine the service costs are quite expensive, but I will be servicing my own. I am qualified to do so. The 125 that I had, I used to service every sort of 2,000 miles maximum. Really, it got serviced to death, and it paid dividends. People say you'll lose money when you trade it in, but I actually believe I got a fantastic trade-in price on my old bike. It was in good condition, to be fair, but I was very happy with the running cost of that bike over the 2.5 years that I had it, doing all the servicing myself. I know it's unfair that everybody's not got that skill level, but it's just one of the advantages for me. Upgrades going forward, things for consideration. I do think this bit rear wheels is quite exposed. I don't particularly like how much tyres on show. There's going to be a lot of muck thrown up from that, and I'm hoping that at some point someone somewhere is going to have some kind of additional hugger that might actually make that a little bit tidier, just to try and prevent some of the road grime going on the rear springs and shock absorbers, which do tend to suffer quite quickly with corrosion. Okay, the other upgrade will definitely be a exhaust. I've been looking everywhere currently to try and find a slip-on can. One of the disadvantages is because it's got the lambda sensor within the back pipe, it's going to need a slight modification for any back box, unless they come with a boss already in to install the lambda in. I'd like to go for a full system, stainless, right front to back. I do think it would make a difference. It's very, very quiet, and I do believe that the exhaust being a little bit louder does actually make you a little bit safer. I know it's a controversial point, some people don't believe that, but I've been riding bikes for 35 years of all sizes, and will say every time I put cans on a bike, I do feel people notice you a lot sooner, so there is a safety benefit in that. I have been talking to a couple of exhaust manufacturers who may be able to help me in the early days with maybe using my bike as a prototype to make an exhaust for, but we'll see how that goes, and I'll put additional details on later. One other thing I would like is handguards. Now, any of you who've got the old Forza currently, you may have noticed if you use it in the rain that the water sprays off the screen and off the front fairing, and it goes directly onto your hands, which I do find particularly annoying. So I'm going to actually try and find a way of getting some grips on there. There are some aftermarket ones, but I'm hoping that my Honda dealer is going to let me try a set of genuine Honda ones to see if I can adjust them, alter them, whatever I need to do to see if I can get them to fit and make it quite a tidy job. Some people use the muffs, but I do feel with the muffs your hands are very, very restricted, and that's not a path I'd like to go down. Well, one other thing I will mention while I think about it is mirrors. A lot of people put negative reviews on about the mirrors on the early Forza 125s. Personally, I had no issues, but there was a lot of people. It's probably one of the biggest gripes that I saw on YouTube reviews. But the mirrors on this new one do appear to be longer in the arms than the old one. But again, I've got no issues. They work perfect for me. I don't need to see everything that's going on behind me. As long as I get a glance at something, that's good with me. Front screen, I think I'm going to need a longer screen. I'm only 5'11". But when I put the screen up, it actually buffets on my helmet quite considerably. It's actually worse than the old 125. With the screen down, it does appear to be a bit better. So again, I'll update if I do happen to change it. And people know my thoughts on the new one. There you go. So just a quick review. Hopefully it will help some of you. If you have got any questions, please post comments below. I will respond as best as I can. Probably when I've done a few more miles on this, I may do an update probably in a month or two, when I'll be up to sort of getting on towards 1,000 miles, I would think. So for now, thanks for watching.